Imagine standing in a courtroom, um, watching your entire life just get dismantled by a lie.
Right.
I mean, someone you trust completely.
Right.
The person you built your life with, is standing right there testifying against you.
Yeah, it's a nightmare scenario.
Totally. They are taking your money, your property, your reputation, and, like, your reaction. You don't scream. You don't fight back at all.
Which is wild.
Right. You just nod, accept this completely devastating verdict, and hand over the keys to your life.
I mean, it completely defies every single instinct we have for self-preservation.
Exactly.
We are fundamentally hardwired, to defend ourselves when we're backed into a corner, especially by a falsehood, the adrenaline spikes, that survival instinct kicks in.
Oh, for sure.
But to just surrender, that requires overriding basic human nature.
It really does. So welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are unpacking a really viral digital narrative. It's titled Unconditional Love, or originally, basically, from the channel Global Life Stores.
It's a fascinating one.
It really is. We are going to explore the twists, the extreme psychology, and the hidden mechanics of what is basically a modern morality tale.
Yeah, and the premise alone is just a total mind bender.
Right. Like, imagine a man who gives his wife absolutely everything in a really bitter divorce purely so she will never, ever have to beg.
Only to pull up to a traffic light a few years later and find her doing exactly that.
Yes. It's like a locked room mystery, but instead of a murder, it's a relationship.
I love that comparison because this story, it really operates as a psychological puzzle, It's deliberately engineered to play with our baseline assumptions about betrayal, wealth, and, well, what people are actually willing to endure for the people they love.
Yeah, and to solve that puzzle, you as the listener, you really have to look past the surface level plot.
Exactly. You have to examine the behavioral mechanics that are actually at play here.
So let's just jump straight into the inciting incident because it really sets the baseline for the whole puzzle.
Good idea.
So 2 years prior to the main action, we have this high-ranking government officer, seemingly perfect, totally happy marriage,
Right.
and then out of nowhere, his wife files a severe harassment case against him.
Just completely out of the blue.
Yeah, and the court rules in her favor, declaring that he committed these terrible atrocities against her. He's ordered to grant a divorce, hand over immense property, and pay her hundreds of thousands of rupees.
Basically a massive settlement.
Right, meant to let her start a new, comfortable life, far, far away from him.
And see, the anchor for understanding this entire narrative is really the husband's internal state during this trial.
Okay, yeah.
Because he knows the harassment allegations are entirely fabricated, like he is completely innocent.
Which is what makes his reaction just completely baffling. I mean, put yourself in that courtroom for a second.
It's hard to even imagine.
Could you just hand over your life savings to someone who is actively destroying your name just to make sure they're financially secure?
I mean, no, most people would be furious.
Right. But he harbors zero anger. He just willingly signs over his wealth. And his only stated motivation is that he wants her to be comfortable so she never has to hold her hand out to anyone.
It's incredible.
He's acting less like a wrong spouse and more like, I don't know, a stoic monk who has achieved total ego death.
That's a great way to put it, because if we evaluate this through the lens of strict psychological realism, it shatters.
Yeah, completely.
Humans are messy, right? We're vindictive. We are deeply protective of our status, but we have to remember this isn't a documentary.
Right, it's a fable.
Exactly. It's a fable. So to understand the mechanism here, think of a lizard dropping its tail to escape a predator.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's an extreme, instantaneous sacrifice of a really valuable asset for the sole purpose of survival. In this narrative, the husband is amputating his own ego, his wealth, and his social standing to ensure her survival.
So it's basically a financial and emotional amputation.
Exactly that. He embodies the archetype of the noble victim.
Okay, the noble victim.
Yeah, the narrative deliberately strips him of normal human resentment to establish him as purely altruistic. I mean, if he fights back...
Right, if he yells or hires a cutthroat lawyer.
Exactly. If he hides assets or screams at her in court, the emotional architecture of the whole story just collapses.
That makes a lot of sense.
He has to establish a baseline of pure generosity so that the tragedy of the next act hits with maximum force.
Which brings us to the time jump.
Right. The 3 years later.
Yes. We move forward 3 years. He is relocated to a new city. He's totally absorbed in his routine, home to office, office to home.
Just going through the motions.
Exactly. He's emotionally detached,
Yeah.
having basically forced himself to forget the woman he once loved.
Or tried to, anyway.
Yeah, tried to. So he's driving, doing the classic city driving, like straight ahead move at a red light, just ignoring the beggars, tapping on the glass.
We've all done that.
Right. But something makes him roll down the window. He hands over some cash, looks at the woman in these dirty, tattered clothes, and his brain just stops.
Because it's his ex-wife.
It's his ex-wife. I mean, the irony is just suffocating.
It really is. The very fate he literally bankrupted himself to prevent is exactly the life she is living.
But I'm stuck on the logistics of this. Like, we know she walked out of that courtroom a very, very wealthy woman.
Oh, extremely wealthy.
She had property. She had cash. How do you go from a massive legal settlement to literally begging at a traffic light in just 3 years?
It doesn't make any sense on the surface.
Like, where does all that money go?
And that right there is the narrative hook really sinking in. You are feeling the exact same cognitive dissonance that the husband is experiencing in that car.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the pieces of the puzzle, like a massive settlement, a false accusation, extreme poverty, they are all on the table, but the picture just doesn't make sense.
So he pulls over. He approaches her on the street, and her reaction is just sheer panic.
She's terrified.
She is so flustered, overcome with shame. She mutters something about, like, paying for her karma, insists she isn't worthy of him, and she actually tries to run away.
But he doesn't let her.
No, he physically stops her and insists she come back to his house.
And you have to pay close attention to what happens when they arrive at his house. This is a brilliant structural pivot in the story.
Oh, how so?
Well, he has his maid draw a bath for her, helps her freshen up, and gives her clean, elegant clothes.
Right. It's like this hyperspeed Cinderella transformation.
Exactly.
She steps out of the bathroom looking just as beautiful as the day they were married.
But look at the mechanism behind that makeover. It's not just superficial.
What do you mean?
Think about the sociology of status and clothing, right? Visual cues completely dictate how humans interact with one another.
Oh, totally.
As long as she is wearing the rags of a street beggar and he is standing there as the wealthy homeowner, the power dynamic is incredibly skewed.
Right, because a beggar cannot have an honest, equal conversation with a benefactor.
Exactly. The physical environment prevents the truth.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, washing away the literal dirt of the streets is a narrative reset. By restoring her visual status to the woman he remembers, the story strips away all the external noise of her poverty.
So it puts them back on a level playing field.
Right. It forces both the characters and us as the listener to focus entirely on the internal mystery. They are finally on equal footing again.
So, sitting face to face on the sofa, the physical barrier is totally gone. And he asks the million-dollar question.
Why are you begging after I sacrificed everything to make you rich?
Exactly. And here is where the entire foundation of the story just flips. She breaks down and introduces what she calls the second option.
Yeah.
I'll admit, when I first read this part, my jaw just dropped.
Oh, mine too. Because this is where we learn about the hidden context that reframes that entire first act.
The invisible forces that were actually operating in that courtroom.
Yes.
So before they ever got married, she had a boyfriend who turned out to be a gangster, like a heavily involved, very dangerous criminal.
Right.
When she realized who he really was, she cut ties. But he refused to let go. He stalked her, demanded to meet, and eventually showed up with a fatal ultimatum.
And this is the turning point.
Divorce your husband by a specific date, or I will murder him.
Which completely upends our understanding of her agency in this whole situation.
Completely.
Up until this exact second, the listener and the husband have categorized her as this cruel, calculating woman who dismantled a good man's life for profit.
But she was a hostage.
Literally.
She knew this gangster wasn't bluffing. She knew her husband's life was actually ticking down to a deadline. So she chose to initiate that fake harassment case.
She took the blame?
Yeah, she painted herself as a monster in front of the judge, in front of her husband, society, solely to fulfill the gangster's demands and keep her husband breathing.
It's amazing.
That fake harassment charge was basically a reputational human shield.
I love that phrase. And let's really examine the mechanics of that sacrifice because it goes so far beyond, like, taking a bullet for someone.
How do you mean?
Well, in a traditional hero narrative, someone jumps in front of a car or a bullet, right? It's a physical sacrifice. It's usually witnessed by people, and it's usually rewarded with immediate gratitude or, martyrdom.
Right. Everyone knows they're the hero.
Exactly. But what she executes here is silent self-destruction. She weaponizes her own reputation.
Oh, wow.
She actively forces the person she loves most in the world to despise her, knowing she can never, ever explain why.
And the fallout for her is just brutal.
Horrific.
Because after the divorce is finalized, once the properties and the cash are legally in her name, the gangster swoops in.
Of course he does.
He takes absolutely everything,
Mm.
transfers the wealth to his own accounts, and then he just discards her.
Like garbage.
He dumps her at her parents' house. And honestly, this is the part of the story that actually made me the angriest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wasn't the gangster, it was her parents.
Ah, yes. The societal reaction is often way more violent than the criminal one.
Yes. Because of the social stigma attached to divorce, her own parents refused to let her inside.
It's heartbreaking.
They didn't approve of her leaving this high-ranking officer, so they literally disown her on the doorstep, punishing her for the quote-unquote mistake of a broken marriage. And that is how she ends up on the street.
We really need to unpack the sociology of that exact moment. I mean, why do parents cast out their own child? To a modern listener, it just seems purely evil.
It seems insane.
It does. But, social stigma operates as a survival mechanism in highly traditional, tight-knit communities.
Okay, survival mechanism how?
Reputation is literally a currency. Shame is treated like a contagious disease. If a family member commits a severe social transgression like, say, an unexplained scandalous divorce from a very respected official, the entire family unit feels threatened.
Oh, so it's self-preservation for them too.
Exactly. To preserve the social standing of the rest of the family, they amputate the quote-unquote infected member.
They cut her off to save themselves from the gossip.
Exactly. The gangster is the physical threat, but society is the structural threat here. The story is offering a very quiet but very sharp indictment of a culture that punishes individuals based entirely on visible outcomes.
Like a broken marriage.
Right, without ever questioning the hidden context. Her parents judged the final product without knowing the agonizing process she just endured.
And despite losing everything, like her husband, her wealth, her family, her dignity, and ending up begging at traffic lights, she just sits on that sofa and tells him she is happiest just knowing he is safe.
Which brings us right back to the title of the piece, Unconditional Love.
Yeah.
The narrative is practically forcing us to redefine that phrase entirely. I mean, we usually equate unconditional love with endless patience or like supporting someone through a tough time or romantic devotion.
The whole in sickness and in health vow.
Right, but this story pushes the definition to its absolute extreme. Unconditional love here is defined as the willingness to be utterly destroyed, socially, financially, emotionally, for the survival of the other person, with zero expectation of gratitude.
It's just, wow.
She didn't just risk her life, she lived in the hell of his hatred so he could stay alive.
Okay, so the truth is finally out. The husband is sitting there just absorbing the sheer magnitude of what just happened.
It's a lot to take in.
He realizes she didn't steal his wealth out of greed. She used it to buy his life.
Yeah.
He is completely overcome with emotion, tells her she is totally blameless, and then the story hits the gas pedal hard.
Oh, it really does. The transition from internal revelation to external action is incredibly swift here.
He pivots from weeping to absolute retribution in like a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
He calls the police, he calls his lawyer, and what happens next is basically like an action movie, where the entire third act is resolved in a 5-minute montage.
It's a warp speed.
The police raid the gangster's properties, they arrest him. The lawyer builds this completely impenetrable case. Within days, the gangster is sentenced to life imprisonment for multiple crimes.
Unbelievably fast.
All the wealth and property are legally transferred back to the wife, and the couple resumes their beautiful, happy life together. I mean, in the real world, you'd be tied up in property court for a decade just trying to prove coercion.
Oh, absolutely. It is entirely unrealistic from a legal or procedural standpoint. But we have to understand the mechanics of the genre we're actually in.
Right.
In a moral fable, the external world is entirely subservient to the internal emotional landscape.
Okay, wait, what do you mean by subservient?
Well, think about what the true conflict of the story actually was. It was never really about the gangster or the stolen money or the legal system. Those were just props.
Yep.
The true conflict was the agonizing misunderstanding between the husband and the wife. He believed she was a monster. She believed she was eternally damned to protect him.
Right.
The moment that internal fracture is healed, the moment the truth is spoken and their bond is restored, the external threats just lose all their power.
So the gangster is basically just a physical manifestation of a test.
Exactly. He is an obstacle designed to prove the depth of their devotion. Once the trust is repaired, the narrative demands absolute, immediate justice.
Because the story knows we need that release.
Yes. A moral fable doesn't have time for the slow, grinding bureaucracy of the real-world justice system. It requires catharsis.
I see.
We, as the listeners, have just sat through the excruciating unfairness of her suffering. The story owes us a cosmic balancing of the scales.
Yeah, that makes
The
sense.
swift justice is a release valve for the tension. The universe is righted immediately because the relationship is righted.
It's an incredibly satisfying, if, like, totally fantastical resolution. But I want to pull this back to reality for a second.
Okay.
Because while the hyperspeed justice system and the gangster ultimatums are the stuff of fiction, the psychological trap that this story exposes is incredibly real.
Oh, 100%.
We've basically just unpacked a narrative that disguised itself as a tale of cruel betrayal, only to reveal a core of ultimate self-sacrificing protection.
And it serves as a really stark mirror for how human beings process information in our daily lives.
How so?
Well, we are constantly observing results, a messy divorce, a sudden career downfall, someone ending up on the streets, and we instantly construct narratives to explain those results.
Right. We see a beggar at a traffic light, and we instantly write a backstory in our heads like, they made bad choices, or they just gave up.
Exactly.
Or we hear about a breakup in our friend group, and within 10 minutes, we've assigned the roles of victim and villain.
We all do it. And there is actually a scientific reason we do that. In psychology, there is a concept called cognitive ease.
Cognitive ease.
Yeah. The human brain consumes an enormous amount of metabolic energy, roughly 20% of our body's calories.
That's a lot.
It is. So to conserve that energy, the brain relies on heuristics, which are essentially mental shortcuts.
Okay, I'm following.
Processing complex, ambiguous morality, or, stopping to consider the myriad invisible pressures that might lead a person to make a seemingly terrible choice is metabolically expensive. It requires really hard thinking.
It's literally exhausting to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Precisely. So to achieve cognitive ease, we jump to the simplest, most familiar narrative available.
The greedy ex-wife,
Right.
the lazy beggar, the heartless parents.
We crave neat, villainous narratives because they are easy to digest and they require no further investigation on our part.
So we do exactly what the husband did for 3 years and what the parents did on their doorstep. We judge the visible outcome because we just don't want to do the work of reading the invisible chapters.
This story forces us to confront the danger of that biological shortcut. It asks us to recognize that between the visible action and the final outcome, there is often a labyrinth of coercion, sacrifice, and silent suffering that we are entirely blind to.
Which brings us right back to that opening thought experiment.
Yes, the courtroom.
Standing in that courtroom, watching the jagged lines of a broken life. It's so easy to see a simple binary of right and wrong.
But you are almost certainly missing the hidden forces that caused the break in the first place.
Right. So I want to leave you with a lingering question to ponder long after this audio ends.
What is it?
Think about a recent judgment you made about someone in your life, or even just a stranger you passed on the street. How often do you accept a neat, villainous narrative about someone's downfall, simply because it's easier than admitting you have absolutely no idea what invisible wars they are fighting behind closed doors?